Hi, Crystal from the Rain Dance Ranch. I couldn't tell if I turned it on or not. The sun. Woo, Arizona sun. Speaking of Arizona, this is an Arizona plant called the Sparky Tacoma, which was developed here in Arizona. I imagine it's being sold at other Home Depots around the world, like probably Texas, New Mexico, maybe up in Nevada. All the deserty, hotty kind of places, maybe even some places in California, I don't know. But it was a hybrid developed by a guy who graduated from ASU, so he named it after the ASU mascot, Sparky. Here I planted some Octenia, which I think I got in a video, I'm not sure, early on after I planted it. And it was just 3 little bitty pieces that came in a 6-pack for like $6 or $5. I'm not sure. Real cheap to buy this plant, and they do real good here. And just within a month, it just filled in the pot, and I just can't wait to see how that looks. And I'm so thrilled that it likes the sun. We'll see. I may have to move it as it gets hotter, which is fine, which is why one of the advantages of using pots. I really like the way this alyssum looks here with the Sparky Tacoma nestled up next to the foxtail fern. Really happy. But yeah, last week this really looked good. And you know, these Rosio de alyssum, I planted these direct sown from seed right there in the ground. And they're starting to get a little more sparse as it heats up. This one's still looking good. These I planted from plugs that I grew in my germination room back in August. And then I planted them like end of September, beginning of October. You know, the lady slipper flowers. Look at all those flowers on them. And I call them Arizona cattails, because they look more like birds than lady slippers as far as I'm concerned. See, I cannot see my camera. But doesn't that look like more like bird? Look at that one. But the growth of them, like, you don't see the flowers very often, and you mostly see these sort of cattail-like formations. So that's why I think they should be called cattails. And there is another thing that grows very similar to these, but they have more of a texture on them that I saw at Home Depot, and they call them cattails. So I need to learn more about that. So I guess I'm not the only one. The purple people eater is kind of looking a little sun-faded. I'm probably gonna have to start taking those in, but this is how everything's looking. These are getting real close to being able to harvest the seeds. I mean, I'd love to get this thing out of here. I can't tell if we can see this. Okay, there we go. This is my stock Mathiola. I don't mind this greenery that's left behind. There used to be a beautiful flower there, a couple of beautiful flowers, and then this one turned into seeds, which I'm so grateful for. But gotta wait. And I probably won't be adding these Mathiola flowers in this area next year. I may do like a stand of them over here somewhere, or over there, or somewhere else. Definitely gonna do them. But I just feel like I don't like the competition, the vertical competition. Although we could use some vertical over here, possibly over in this little section would be nice to have a little cluster, possibly over in this area, because this is more of a traditional green kind of area, whereas this is more of a succulent garden. So I think I might want to try to keep this more as a succulent garden next year. I may allow little bitty stands of this alyssum to come through because it reseeds So there's going to be little, especially anywhere from like here over, there's going to be a lot of this alyssum coming up next year, and I can't wait, because then I can just pull the ones I don't want and let the ones I want grow, and it's just going to be so much less effort next year. And I'm hoping that I can get the alyssum to come back up over here too. But I did add this bark, and you might get a little less self-seeding happening. We'll see. Those things are pretty persistent. And oh, so here we've got some unknown weed, and I actually love it at this stage. And probably next week I'm going to come and just trim it back to the nub, and it'll just grow back and just create this little patch of green. And then over here I sprayed with weed killer, because this stuff is really hard to dig out. And I've decided that I'm going to be pulling my red tip yucca, and I do want to dig this out or kill it with, but I don't like using weed poisoning, but you know what, this might be a case. But I kind of like it a little bit too, so I think I'm gonna let it roll, and I'll just come out once a month, trim it back to the nub, let it grow back, and then I'll just use the weed killer over here in this section maybe one more time. But look at this Mexican petunia, and I kind of want to pull this Mexican petunia out. It's taken a long time to start looking good again from when I first moved in. I really can't tell if it's showing up on the video. This is the problem with doing videos later in the day. You can't see. You can't see your screen. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's the Mexican petunia. People love these, and they are really nice plants here, but I really don't like the root system. And they just kind of need some attention to look good, and they don't bounce back from hard cuts. So there's pluses and minuses to all that, which I'm not getting into right now, but I have made a video about it, and I could probably talk about it again since everybody loves those. But they have no idea what they're getting into. So here I put a red bird of paradise, and it's just growing really nicely, and that will be really cool if I get a nice bush that sort of fills in this area. The dianthus, I don't know if it's ever gonna bloom, but I grew these from seeds back in August and planted these in September, and they've kind of been shaded out a lot by the other plants that were in there. But it, makes a nice greenery. These were really pretty petunias at one point, and we'll see if we can just keep those alive. I'm fine with just having little nubby things. I don't know if we're going to be able to keep them alive over the summer, but if they live, great. Then in the fall we'll have some nice flowers there. If that dianthus lives, someday it might bloom. I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen exactly. We're just going for it. Over here we had this potato vine growing up over my, I cannot tell what's going on in the video. Okay, there we go. Growing up over my purple lantana, and so it kind of lost some blooms and got a little flat, and I might come in and do some trimming. I just trimmed these back, and I'm going to discourage the growth from going that way, so I'll probably have to come out every month or something, and whenever it needs to be trimmed back to keep the lantana showing. And I kind of figured that would happen, and maybe eventually I'll get this nice mix going, and I'm going to play around with trying to facilitate that. So you can see the purple lantana coming up through through the potato vine. I just want to try to keep this thing alive. This was a discount lavender. I'm like, I'm just going to stick it in there and see what happens. And if it lives, great. Next spring, I'm going to have something real pretty, probably. This thing's coming out. And I'm going to save the plant and just put them in pots and resell them. Or maybe I'll put another one somewhere else here on the property. But I'm going to make a bunch of gallon pots and probably sell those bad boys for like $4 a pop or something. These are such great plants, these red tip yucca. So this is how they look after a month. I think they started blooming about a little over a month ago, and they just, you know, I love the blooms. They're just fabulous. And there's that other one. And I cut a bunch of them off. I cut like maybe 5 of them off of this plant. And the blooms on this one look really amazing. And I'm wondering if it has something to do with the fact that I took some of them off, because these still look phenomenal. These are starting to look a little raggedy. And I thought I saw a new bloom coming out on this one, but we do have some new ones over here. So if you cut some of your blooms off, that's works. That probably would work on these to get like a second flush. So you may, like if you left like, if you had like 8 blooms and you cut off 3 or 4 blooms early on, put them in a vase and enjoy them because they last a long time in a vase, then you'll probably get a second flush. So you can have more blooms out in your landscape. Whereas this one, I didn't cut anything off. And the blooms are looking faded. I don't really have any more blooms coming up. So I'm wondering if I cut these down this week, am I going to get another flush? No, it isn't uncommon to get a few blooms in the fall either. In my experience. But yeah, I love these guys. So this is the update part of the video of my red tip yucca, which is what this is going to be called. Now over here and so what I'm going to do, once this comes out, I'm going to sheet mulch all around here. So we're going to have sort of like this sheet mulched planter area here. And totally undecided what I'm going to replace this with, but I'm not putting in, I may put in another one of these with some other plants, or I may take a split from this and replant it, but I'm not going to do anything until the fall, and this needs to come out ASAP because I really want to get all this Bermuda grass covered up and dead. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm just coming out, I'm going to just keep coming out once a month and piling up the wood chips here, because there's a lot of Bermuda grass growing here, and I have spent countless hours between this plant and that plant trying to get the Bermuda grass out from underneath them. And this one, I think I might be able to kill it with the mulch, and I just have to stay on top of it. So I'm going to keep working on that. The sheet mulch helps weaken the plant so they are easier to just pull. And it just, just makes it easier to get rid of them. Get rid of these. So you can see them growing in there. Oh, little devils. So hard to get Bermuda grass out once it starts growing under your plant. If you have Bermuda grass anywhere in your yard, I recommend getting rid of it. And if you see any little bits of Bermuda grass around a plant that you like, just try to get rid of it right away. Now, these 2 plants right before I moved in were severely injured by Roundup, and so I did get them to come back, but they still look a little off from where they were. They were a lot larger, and they sort of matched the hedge thing that we got going on here. See, these are still kind of stuck in the ground. I just literally put this sheet mulching on over the Bermuda grass less than a week ago. But see how uneven they are.